So do you ever wonder if the bid strategy in Google Ads, maximize conversion value, actually works and when you should use it? So I'm not one of those guys who does manual CPC bidding all the time. I do use smart bidding, including maximize conversions and maximize conversion value on probably 80% of the campaigns that I manage. But in this video, I'm going to show you one example where maximize conversion value actually failed miserably after a Google strategist specifically recommended it for an account. Then after that, I'm also going to explain two instances where I definitely use maximize conversion value. So you'll probably see maximize conversion value show up as a recommendation in your recommendations tab. Here's an example of it on one account where they're just wanting to apply maximize conversion value as a bid strategy. So Google strategists tout maximize conversion value as the best strategy. We can argue about why. I think they're incentivized probably to get more people on that strategy because Google can then control the bidding a little bit more. Again, I do use it in some circumstances, but I'm going to show you one example where a Google strategist recommended it and it just failed miserably. They actually encouraged me to use value rules, which we'll not get into here, but that might have influenced this test. This campaign is for a towing account, which is very clearly cost per conversion. We're looking at target CPA. We're measuring how much does a lead cost, and all leads are really valued the same because they're mostly phone calls. In this case, I would typically stick with maximize conversions with a target CPA bid so we can really control how much we're paying per lead. I was willing to test out maximize conversion value. I do sometimes when strategists recommend it. In this case, we turned it on July 8th. So July 8th is kind of around here. I actually turned it off around the 23rd, which was somewhere around here. So the two metrics I have graphed here are cost per conversion and average CPC. So really just cost metrics. Again, I turned it on right around here. You can see costs go up right away. There was a really big peak where one day I paid $43 for clicks, and that's really what we want to pay per lead. Before we were paying $5 to $10, probably more like $8 to $10 average per click. And then, it went up to $44, $300 cost per conversion, which isn't going to work for many businesses, especially not towing. Usually we like to pay $30 for a lead. And if I showed this to Google strategists, they would say, oh, you need to give it more time, which is true to some degree, but a lot of advertisers just are not going to have the patience to see a day like this and let it keep going. We did actually let it keep going for a while longer, and it kind of leveled out a little bit, but we still were like double CPC, double cost per conversion. We let this run for a few weeks, and again, they probably would say, oh, you got to let it run longer. But again, a lot of advertisers don't have the patience or the budget to just let this ride with these kind of numbers. If we look at real numbers for this period and compare July 8th to the 23rd, versus the previous period where we were running maximized conversions, you can see some of the numbers here. So cost went up 130%, CPC went up 160%, conversion rate dropped 24%. The ROAS number, which really is what the maximized conversion value strategy should optimize for, dropped by 24%. And then cost per conversion, which is really the main metric we're looking at for like many accounts, but definitely towing companies, went from $45 to $150. So, I mean, just ridiculous bad numbers. There's no way anyone's going to look at that and say, oh, let's let that go another month and see if it kind of improves. We want to see it at least stay the same, maybe improve over a few weeks if we're going to let that go. So basically all that to say, be careful when you use maximize conversion value, and definitely take with a grain of salt the recommendations in your Google account and those that come from the Google strategist on the phone or email. I'll probably use this video myself to show to Google strategists to just point out why I'm tentative to even test this on accounts. But there are two instances where I do use maximize conversion value regularly, and I see that it works well. And I did a longer video on this that I'll link to, but just to give a quick overview, this account is actually an example of both cases. So this is an e-commerce account that's selling a product. So there's real value being measured in a relative way. So people can place an order, and it could be an order for $500 or $3,000. So obviously anytime e-commerce orders are happening, we need to value those differently and take that value into account. And then the second example of when I would use maximize conversion values also present in this account. And it's when we have differing values of conversions. And this can happen without e-commerce sales. For example, on this account, we have lead forms being submitted. I got signups to a newsletter that have some value. I have phone calls. I have contact form submissions. And then I have sample orders, which is e-commerce, but it's also like a lead, someone purchasing a sample of the product. And then I have purchases. So again, that's going back to e-commerce. But even without e-commerce, we have these varying values of different types of leads coming through, which is pretty common on accounts. You can have different values for different reasons. In that case, I don't really have much choice but to use maximize conversion value. If I use maximize conversions, I'm really counting every conversion with the same value of basically 1 or 1 per conversion. And I just can't do that when they have different values. So in these examples, you're really forced to use maximize conversion value. And I do find that it works pretty well over the long term. You can check out my other video where I talk more about these 2 different circumstances and also just why and how to use conversion values within your campaigns. So thanks for watching this video. I'll link to that next video for your next watch.